what are they doing? They're releasing this right around Ready or Not 2. Like, this looks like it's just going to be this total B movie that's just ripping off everything else that I like. I'm not going to like this. Well, little did I know, as I needed that warm hug from all of the influences of all of the film, action and horror films I've loved.
I think that's what's so fun about it. It's so much more than just a Kill Bill clone, right? There's a very contemporary message that feels a lot like society now.
Depending on where you're at, you might like Ready or Not 2. This takes that concept and just goes balls to the wall with it. It goes to some places that I was not expecting.
Friends and listeners, you got a brand new episode of Watch Good Plus. We want to be your go-to source for insightful and pop-cultured movie reviews. My name is Jose. I'm also known as Cupcake. Maybe it's the reverse. I'm joined by my co-host, Mike, also known as the WillDaBeast. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. Things have not been great, dealing with sickness and work stuff, but hey, life goes greener. We have movies. We've got the sun shining. It's like early spring here in Utah. I don't know what's happening.
Meanwhile, over here, meanwhile, over here in Maryland, one day, I'm covering up like I'm in fucking Alaska, and the next day I'm in Daisy Dukes and a fucking t-shirt. I don't understand what's happening with the weather. But nonetheless, everybody, please feel free to like, subscribe, comment. We're trying to build this community. As you know, we release a spoiler-free review, half hour, get in, get out, decide whether to see the film, and then 2 days later on a Sunday, we'll release the spoilered movie discussion and breakdown, meaning spoilers here, come check out the discussion. What are we reviewing this week?
We are reviewing They Will Kill You.
Yeah, such an interesting title, They Will Kill You. And of course, that very eye-catching trailer. How do you feel about the fact that this film, which I think is going to be polarizing, if only for the fact that this has been released very closely to a film that looks almost similar in tone, as well as plot, as well as visual references? So I'm talking about Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, and then this film comes out, which feels a lot like it, right?
Yep.
Do you think that this is going to cut into the audience or the box office because of this sort of weird whiplash?
Yeah, well, Ready or Not is just its own beast. I mean, you had Samara Weaving, and it was just much different, bigger cast. This is much smaller in scale. It feels much different. But like you said, very similar in concept. I mean, it's very much like the John Wicking of these kind of satanic horror comedies and turning this thing into a complete action flick. So I also was thinking we just got Kill Bill re-released into theaters too. So this feels very similar to a lot of stuff that's happening right now. For better or worse, I think we'll talk about that in the review, whether that worked or didn't for us. But there's not a lot of originality in this. Should we say that?
No, we're definitely not going to say that. And that's why I think this is going to be polarizing. I mean, folks, just look at the poster. It looks like Kill Bill. There's a sword and anyway. So our director and co-writer is a gentleman named Kirill Sokolov. Mm-hmm. He is from Russia. He's absolutely gorgeous, by the way. If any of you have been listening since the beginning, you'll know that I attempted to learn Russian just so I could pull up on hot Russian guys.
You love Russian bears. That's all we need to know.
Bears and Russian people in general, they're beautiful. And of course, Russian culture. But, I mean, Russia, very controversial. Please try to separate Putin from the people of Russia because not everybody is on board with that. But speaking of which, Sokolov unfortunately had to leave Russia and come to America because he spoke out against the Ukrainian war. So he came to America, but not a lot of films for him. He's done a lot of shorts, but in 2018, there was a film he directed called Why Don't You Just Die? Were you able to see this film?
No, I didn't actually watch it, but it's popped up on my For You a lot, but I just haven't. Usually it's late at night, and then it's like, okay, either have to watch it with a crappy dub, or I gotta be ready to read subtitles at 10:30 at night. So I need to get to the zone where I can watch it at 6 o'clock or something.
So I've seen it several times actually, and it's set in like a Moscow apartment and ostensibly what looks like a John Wick or a Kill Bill, right down to all of the weird eccentricities and camera movements. It turns out to be this sort of like deeper plot. And I know that we talk about Tarantino a lot, but you should not be surprised that Sokolov, his favorite directors are Sergio Leone, Martin McDonagh, Park Chan-wook, Martin Scorsese, and of course, Quentin Tarantino. And so, that first film, I think, is really easy to say, well, it's just a Russian guy riffing on Tarantino. And that, I think, is why this film is going to be so polarizing for some people. But as we saw from our last film that we reviewed, Project Hail Mary, I think there is a space for filmmakers who can reference visually and even script or plot-wise other classic films, but kind of make it their own. This is also co-written by Alex Litvak. He is a friend of Sokolov's, but Litvak wrote Predators, remember that? Directed by Nimrod Antal. And then he also wrote the screenplay for Paul W.S. Anderson's Three Musketeers, which is, I don't know what the fuck that was, but man, is it fun to watch and so stupid. It's a big guilty pleasure. All right, so
if you just really look at the films that he writes, you can tell exactly what you're getting into.
Oh,
you can tell 100% what you're getting into when
100%. I should mention that Sokolov has really only done one other film before this, and that is Otorvi Vibros, and that is that's the Russian title. It's called No Looking Back. That was in 2021. This is his first domestic film. So our DP is a gentleman named Isaac Bowman. He's probably best known for a series called Teacup. Did you ever see this on Peacock? It looked like a horror thriller kind of thing.
I've never seen it. I saw the trailer, but again.
Yeah, it looked interesting. He's DP'd some episodes of Loki, and then two films. If you haven't seen them, they're actually kind of worth it, if not entirely successful. But 2023's Deliver Us, and then 2023's Haunting of the Queen Mary. And then just a shout out, Kerry Gregg. He's our stunt coordinator, as is Russell McCarroll. The film was shot in South Africa. And so, if the film has been shot in South Africa, like Escape Room, Tournament of Champions, or, Mad Max Fury Road, if they can kind of get over there, Warrior, Monster Hunter, they've been involved. So really, really good stuff. Our cast really quickly. Zazie Beetz, she's a German-American actress. We probably best know her for Atlanta, and Easy, which was on Netflix as well, has a comic book connection. She's done voiceovers for Invincible. She played Domino in Deadpool 2. And then more along those lines, 87 North. She was in Bullet Train. How do you feel about Zazie Beetz? You love her?
Well, I think she's becoming a kick-ass. Like, I loved her acting prowess young right out the bat with Atlanta, but now after like what we see her do with the Train movie and this, she's kind of an action badass. Like, watch out, Mila Jovovich. Like, here comes the new one. I think that she can really slide into this horror action genre. And the whole time I was thinking, I was like, this is what I've always wanted from someone like Mila Jovovich, someone who can be a badass, not just a scream queen, but be in these kind of action horror films. And she's got the moves, she's got the expression, she's funny, she's quippy, she can show a huge range, which, as much as I love Mila, I don't know if that beautiful face can show as much range as I'd wish. But
I was just about to say, no offense, Mila, you're not winning an Oscar, but Zazie, she's great. Remember her role in Joker as the neighbor? Like, she's really, really good in terms of her acting. Fantastic. Also in the cast, we have, I'm going to say Myha'la, but I don't think many people will know her from stuff, but she was in Bodies. Yep. She's part of Industry, which I have yet to see. I hear it's a really great UK series. It's on HBO Max right now, folks. I think it's got 3 or 4 seasons under its belt. And then she was in Leave the World Behind as Mahershala Ali's daughter. And that was the Sam Ishmael movie with Julia Roberts. I loved that movie. We've also got Patterson Joseph, probably best known for a lot of like UK television series. So Law and Order UK, Safe House. He's been on like NBC shows as well. He's actually part of like the Royal Shakespeare Company. And then to see him crop up in this, I'm like, hello. Speaking of cropping up and hello, Tom Felton, Draco Malfoy himself, okay? He can't seem to escape the sort of like douchey bad guy. I mean, he was in a TNT series, Murder in the First, where he was possibly a murder suspect. Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I've never cheered to have somebody have their head pounded in by a gorilla. Recently was in the news because there's an HBO series now, and he apparently reached out to the young boy that is going to play Draco Malfoy, and he sort of was like, if you need a shoulder to cry on or advice or something, because he really went through it, having this like global stardom thrust upon him. I think there were stints in rehab and just self-image stuff, like, those poor kids. As much as we vaunted them from Harry Potter, they went through the shit. And some of them, like Emma's not even acting
Emma doesn't act anymore. The only one that's still really out there that really got a star on him is Daniel. I mean, the rest are...
Yeah.
I mean, there are a few. Rupert's doing stuff here and there on the small...
Yeah, Rupert's doing stuff. Harry Melling with that big fucking sexy pumpkin
He shows
head.
up here and there.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, what a just crazy. Heather Graham, love her. Roller Girl from Boogie Nights, Committed, which I love that. She's done indie Fair. She's been in Lost in Space, some other big franchise. She's kind of having a resurgence. Suitable Flesh, the Joe Lynch horror film. And she's come a long way from her first starring role in License to Drive. With
I know. I love that movie. Yes.
Like, wow.
I saw that in the Dollar Theater when I was a kid. Well, it was like on 50-cent day. And my parents would take me, and I love that movie. It holds
50-cent day for movies, folks. Do you remember that? I remember
long time
that.
ago.
Matinees were $1.50. Jesus Christ. Speaking of coming a long way from her first film, Patricia Arquette, you mentioned Scream Queen. We know her as Kristen from Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. And she's just so cute. I mean, I know she's got the little snaggletooth thing, but she's so adorable in that, and definitely come a long way. Oscar-winning actress, Boyhood, Richard Linklater. A lot of us probably love her from True Romance. That scene where she like takes a beating from Mr. Soprano himself in True Romance, but then turns the tables. That scene is so horrifying and amazing and empowering all at the same time. I love Patricia Arquette. Did not expect her to have an Irish accent in this, but
I hear that her personality is as hot of a mess as her accents were in this movie.
Well, you know what?
Not a bad person, just a hot mess.
Her personality may be a hot mess, but damn it, I will sit at her table and just talk to her. I love her. I think many of us will also know her from Medium, which was on NBC, which is a great series. Any comments about our cast before we move into our spoiler freeze?
I just love that they snagged like Felton and Graham and Arquette, folks that at one time were quite elevated and now have found their niche in this like kind of small indie kind of, $10 to $20 million films.
Or even genre.
Yeah, and genre stuff. And, Heather Graham's popping up in Christmas movies on Hallmark and stuff like that too.
I know,
again,
it's amazing.
Get your money, honey. We love you. And I'm happy to see Felton out of the drugs and focusing. He's been really busy on the indie circuit, doing a lot of stuff. Again, he is villainous pretty much in everything that he plays. But hey, get that money, cash those checks, and they're not bad. I mean, actually, I enjoyed seeing all of them in this movie. So it was quite fun when they popped up. I didn't watch the trailer really. I just knew that this was Ready or Not with Zazie Beetz stuck in a satanic hotel. So that's all I knew. I try not to get to the trailers. I try to show up 20 minutes late to the Regal so I don't have to sit through all of those trailers. So that's really
so
wasn't
dicey
that familiar.
Sometimes, but yeah. Felton, by the way, he wears these loafers with no socks, and I just seeing the ankles, I was waiting and it didn't happen. I was waiting to see the feet and it didn't happen. Anyway, all right.
Okay, let's get into it.
I'll start spoiler free. So Here's the thing. I apparently, and I don't normally do this, but there's not a lot of information on Kirill Sokolov. And so I did read some of his interviews, and he is not hiding the fact that Tarantino, Leone, Scorsese, those are his influences. He's not hiding it. And he's like, oh, this is where I got that from. This is where I got that from. And I think why this is going to be so polarizing is people will likely watch this and they will say, well, he's just ripping off Tarantino. He's just ripping off the old boy cinematography of the fights in the hallway. Like, there's nothing new. But if we are able to give Tarantino himself the break to say that, you know, he's gifted in other respects as a great director, screenwriter, the gift of gab, why can't we do the same for Sokolov? And I think that if anybody has seen Why Don't You Just Die, you know that this is what he does. He wears these influences on his sleeve out there completely, but what he can do with it and make it engaging, I think that's where his strength lies. And if you look at the scenes where there isn't, you know, action happening or there isn't gore, he does have a good med for his scenes, his dramatic scenes, his editing, his shots. So I think we've got a really great potential filmmaker here who apparently is very, very enthusiastic. This film has a lot of energy. It is a horror comedy. It is funny. It's great. Nothing new under the sun. And so, you know, I mentioned Project Hail Mary, which, you know, you and I, if you listen to both of our episodes, I think we named like 15 or 18 other sci-fi films that we thought of. But just like that, where, yeah, it's the same kind of style or maybe even plot, but they've made it their own in some ways. So I'm going to give another example. If you enjoyed Boy Kills World, then this is totally going to be up your alley because it would be easy to watch Boy and say, oh, it's video games meets Kill Bill meets, you know, Family Guy or what have you, with that kind of like, you know, ribald, sort of gory comedy bent to it. But that's the same thing here. And quite honestly, I had so much fun watching this. I mean, there's some great action in here. It reminded me of Jackie Chan films, Sammo Hung films, you know, and just it's such a joy. And Zazie Beetz is fantastic in it. And just the inventive way that Sokolov wields his camera. Like when they're crawling on all fours, I don't know how they're doing this shot. I don't know if they're like being pulled on a track and they're just miming.
It's gotta be on a track. It's so well but choreographed too.
But it's amazing. And then the shot of them like crawling up the air duct where it's just the whole screen is black except for that. Like I love the energy in here. And Zazie Beetz is fantastic. She's barefoot in the entire film, although there is a close-up of a bunion. But she's great. Her body's banging. She's the great. Action, she absolutely sells the action. Graham, Felton, Arquette, they're great. The other thing I'm going to say about this is it would have been nice if they hadn't ruined the Satanic Hotel thing in the trailer, because just like Why Don't You Just Die, the way that this film is fashioned is it's supposed to keep surprising you as it does that kind of like Pulp Fiction rolling back on characters, introducing them. Here's what happened like 2 weeks ago, 10 years ago, or whatever. But the other thing that I'm going to say is that they're like, this sort of like supernatural storytelling that they've got going on, I kind of dig it. I think some people might get turned off by it because they think it's just going to be this revenge actioner. But then there's this Satanism and then like that, you know, that supernatural stuff. But I mean, there seems to be this resurgence of like satanic panic. Psycho Killer had it. I'm sure there's another movie that we reviewed or talked about that also has Satanism in it as well. But as you say, it's a blast. I had so much fun. Weirdly, all my friends are talking about going back to see Project Hail Mary a second time. This is the one I'm going back to see a second time in the theaters. So it's definitely a watch, with the caveat that if you're just going to go in this and have your arms crossed like, he's ripping off Tarantino and whatever, you're not going to enjoy it. But if you go with it and realize, yeah, that's what they're riffing on, but it's its own thing, you're going to have a good time. How about you? What do you think?
I'm glad to hear your thoughts, because I'm not that far off from you, honestly. I actually went into this kind of with my prompt, like, what are they doing? They're releasing this right around Ready or Not 2. Like, this just seems like a cash grab. This is a bad time to release this. You know, I've been dealing with crap in my life. I was like, okay, I'm going to go see this. This looks like it's just going to be this total B movie that's just ripping off everything else that I like. I'm not going to like this. Well, little did I know, as I needed that warm hug from all of the influences of all of the film, action and horror films I've loved, from Crank to Kill Bill to Babysitter to Get Out, just all these wonderful references put into a blender with this beautiful, like, wonderful, very risky Russian-esque Kill Bill homage. Like, some of the weird gags and gooey, gory stuff is, you know, without getting into details, there is an eyeball that is very interesting that reminds me of the popcorn in Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And there's these popcorn that come to life, and there's practical effect of it crawling on the ground.
Or even the severed hand from Evil Dead 2, right?
Yep. I mean, all that stuff is very much homaged in the way that they play with effects. And I like the blend of the mostly a mix of practical and CGI. Of course, we go into an over-the-top CGI fest in the end. There is an interesting twist of how they look at the devil and how he's presented in this film, which we'll go into in our spoiler review, that I wasn't quite ready for. That really felt Sam Raimi-esque.
Totally.
But I ended up having, as I say, a blast with this. This was a lot of fun. And I don't know if I was just so defeated from getting over a sickness and crap at work, and just the kids being home this whole week for spring break, just pummeling me with, Daddy, can I do? Daddy, can I do? And I guess I needed this kick in the nuts fun. It was kind of as refreshing as Fight or Flight that we've reviewed recently. Style over substance can work if it's done in a fun, energetic way, and you know what you're getting into, and you're in the right sort of mind. You know, I think some people have to prepare for this, and I think that's why it's catching people off guard, because they've just seen Ready or Not, they just seen the Kill Bill re-release, and this comes in, and they're like, oh. Like you said,
that's what this is.
That's what this is. Come on. But it's so fun. It also reminds me of the work of Tommy Wirkola. If you've seen Dead Snow, or you've seen Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters movie, there's this, I don't know, Eastern European vibe where they have a lot of fun with their effects, mixing of practical and CGI effects. I just love. So this is a big hit for me. I really did like this. I might actually like this more than Ready or Not 2. It's really close. I like them both a lot. We didn't review Ready or Not 2, but you should see that as well. Great back-to-back. If you can open your drive-in theater right now and put these two movies together, that would be chef's kiss to be able to say you saw those at the movie theater together, because they really work great together.
Former host Red, Justin, he actually did this as a double feature, Ready or Not 2, and then They Will Kill You. And he was like, I love it when they line up like this. It's so good.
And depending on where you're at, you might like Ready or Not 2. It's very comfortable. It's very much what it is. This takes that concept and just goes balls to the wall with it. It just goes, there's some really, while everything's very familiar, it goes to some places that I was not expecting.
Yes, it does. And I think that's what's so fun about it. You talked about it being like a blender of genres and stuff. Yeah. And it's great. It's so much more than just a Kill Bill clone, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing I'm going to say too is that, I always talk about these points of difference, right? Like, if you're going to go in and watch this, what are the points of difference that make it different from a Kill Bill clone? And I think this has everything to do with Sokolov's background. But there's a very contemporary message that feels a lot like society now in this film, which is, at some point, the villains are trying to justify what they are doing. And they're sort of like, if you got to know me, I'm a really nice person. And it's like, but you're a Satanist and you sacrifice people. I'm sorry, you have to die.
And you're mostly entrapping people of color.
Yes, exactly. Right. And, you are taking advantage of the people that don't have power. Yeah. And right now, that's a really, really strong message. Sure. And more importantly, from Sokolov's background, it's the same way, like the Russian people and Putin and war and everything. And so I really kind of like that they snuck that in there, because at some point, we'll talk about it in the spoiler section, but there's a character who talks to, their spouse, who has sort of like been like, I'm over this. I don't want to do this anymore. And that scene is a really great point of difference for this film. So for me, it's definitely a watch. Like, I loved it, just with the caveat that you have to put away the copycat lens and really just trying to enjoy it. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, it's a pretty hard watch for me. I enjoyed the heck out of it. I really needed it this week. Again, you never know when a film is just going to help your mental health. And this was one that really did. I was in a low point, and going to see this put me in a pretty darn good mood. So yeah, hard watch. Go see this in the theater. But if you can see it with as many friends as possible, do it. People who are into Tarantino, who like Kill Bill, or, maybe they like the Crank movies or the Babysitter franchise, all that kind of stuff is definitely the people who are going to love this. Tyler, you're going to love this.
Oh my God, T, this is your thing. This is your jam.
Yeah.
Get on it.
Yeah. Go see this in theaters. For sure.
Definitely. All right, folks. So that adjourns our spoiler-free review. Don't forget, come join us in 2 days for the breakdown on this, because we're definitely going to be discussing the craziness that goes down in this film. I should also mention that, like, the lighting and the production design are they're wonderful. There's green and these sort of like nude beige colors. They're amazing. It's beautiful. Like Tom Felton's ankles in this. Okay. So if you love us, you will certainly love our Podfathers, Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema and Not a Bum. I am poised to do another Breaking Brad. We had done the sequel to For Your Height Only, The Impossible Kid. That was the last Breaking Brad that we sort of like discussed. It should be released soon by the time this comes out. You'll also love the OG's Night of the Living podcast. And then please check out our YouTube brothers. We have the Wild Dream Stream. That's Daniel and David from the Wild Dream podcast. And now for something a little bit different, the Two Johns, as well as Death by DVD. And then these other podcasts that you'll love, Raiders of the Podcasts, our brothers T, we just mentioned him, Kevin, Craig, Dave, all of them over there. Dave, we need to get you back on as well. And then Backlook Cinema podcast, Caliber 9 from Outer Space, Feminine Critique, Talk Without Rhythm with Goro, and Mike, parting thoughts.
Hey, when life kicks you in the nuts, get to the movie theaters, man. It really is what we need to kind of give that little shot of dopamine. Taking a risk to go see something with a big group of people. Luckily, it's not a big risk for me because I have the pass. Again, if you have an AMC or, whatever, Regal, whatever it is, and you can take advantage of these passes to go to the movies as much as possible, do it. And then if you do have a pass, buy a drink once in a while, get the theater a little scratch on their back. Because I see some people who do the pass and they sneak in their food in their backpack and stay all day.
Oh my God. When we watched this movie, this father-son duo that usually comes in, he had something under his shirt. It was like two large glass Tupperware things with the like vacuum lid, and he was like eating a full course dinner while the movie was going. I was like, what are you doing?
Now that is what you do sometimes at film festivals, but that's not what you need to do at your local megaplex. You should be supporting the megaplex because most of the money they make is from those concessions. So part of getting you to go to the theater a lot is to give them a little bit, buy a drink here and there, whatever you want. Again,
absolutely
support the movie theaters. That's all I can say.
Yes. And as always, folks, be kind, be open, be vulnerable. That's where the art is. And check out our spoilered discussion on this film. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. All right. See you guys on the other side. Bye.
Peace.